Everybody hear me fine? There we go. Now I can hear myself. Everybody, welcome. Thank you for joining. So, Openfit, you're going to have to do some jumping jacks right now. So, you guys ready for that? No? Yeah? Wake up a little bit. I'm not going to make you do jumping jacks. So, welcome. I was introduced as Reza, but I want to share something with you that for the longest time, my nickname was Rez300. And I will tell you why. And some people might know what I'm talking about if you're in the SRE or incident response. All right, so a couple questions. Actually, one for now. How many people work out 4 to 5 times a week? All right, right on. Okay. So as it turns out, our user base is much like you guys. They're very, very committed and dedicated to their fitness regimen, and they do it pretty consistently. Now, imagine it's 6 in the morning, right? And you get up, you have your coffee, or you have your pre-workout drink, and some of you, if if you had those, they wire you up pretty good. You go from 0 to 100 pretty fast. You put on your clothes, you get in front of whatever device that you have that's going to stream our application, or your makeshift gym, in the garage, and you basically turn on, you go to your favorite workout and click play, and boom, no stream. So you have an error that says, stream not available, and being that it's 2019, you get upset, you run to Facebook, and because you're part of this fitness group that keeps each other accountable, which is actually a really good thing. You start, saying, oh, I can't get my video to work. It's not streaming. It's not buffering correctly. And everybody's like, yeah, I'm having the same problem. So, all the negative comments start flowing, and it's definitely not good for our business. Social media, one of our challenges. This was our reality for many, I would say a couple of years. If we ever had a marketing event, or a new program that would come out, and we would blast out emails. This is a new program, and usually our programs were pretty popular. A lot of people will flood in that Monday or whenever the program was launching. And it would break the site. We couldn't scale correctly. Our stack was not very scale friendly. And I can get into that a little bit later on. And we would have all these issues all the time. And it was just we were always at the edge of our seats. When marketing had to do this and announce a new program. So as you might have figured out by now, we're a digital fitness streaming platform, much like Netflix, but for fitness. And we're actually a sister company of Beachbody. So Beachbody, you guys know. Openfit is newer. We're right now currently on web, iOS, Roku, and Android. And those have been our very popular platforms. Mission is to make fitness easy, accessible, and affordable. So, you're traveling, you're out there, you want to just pop our videos on your, mobile device, and we want to make it easy for you. We want to make it quick so that you can get your workout and done. And of course, provide a stable service, right? So it really is paramount that when you go there to press play, that thing loads up because you're ready to go, right? And we all know that working out sometimes can be challenging, and you might not have the motivation for it. So anything that stops you from doing that is not a good thing. So that is our mission, to provide a stable service. Stats. So since we launched on January 17th, we have about 45,000 users. Not bad for a few months. So marketing plays with, acquiring users all the time. Sometimes they turn it up, sometimes they turn it down, and they're trying to figure out, the best way of acquiring. We've had 400,000 qualified views, video plays which is pretty impressive for a few months. Basically, that's start to end. We track that and make sure that accounts for one video, one from start to end. That's a qualified video. In order to do that, we have about 65 million service calls per month on our serverless platform. And of course, that increases every month as we get more users. And that is supported by 206 Lambdas across 26 API gateway endpoints. So it's split between a blue and a green. So we were always running a blue and a green at all times. All right, so obviously we had scaling problems that we needed to solve. We looked at different technologies. We looked at how are we gonna handle this? Are we gonna rewrite our stack, which at that time was in EC2s, no containers. It was a LAMP stack. It was put in together pretty quickly, just like all the MVPs that get out there. And we want to see, do we have to rewrite that to work with servers, or do we want to go into a container model and work with orchestration? But we looked at serverless and we're like, I think that's like the best fit for us. The more we looked at it, the more it appealed to us. As with all transformations, you have to make sure that it fits your model, right? You can't just go out there and pick a technology and say, okay, that's the latest and greatest, so it's going to work for me. No. So my second question, anybody is running serverless right now? Oh, a few, okay. Are you guys 100%? Partial? No? Yeah, okay, so we're 100% serverless. And I'll get into all the different serverless stacks that we have. For real quick, serverless is basically any component of the cloud where the offering of the cloud offering where the management scale and availability is all handled by the cloud provider. And examples: Cognito, Dynamo, and of course Lambda. We're in AWS, but different cloud providers have their own flavor. Of course, you've heard Lambda being referred to as function as a service. Basically, that's what it does. Runs the function and provides you that service. Now, serverless doesn't mean server-free, right? This is running somewhere. It's not like it's running, in a black hole. There's micro containers and VMs that are running, but of course, it's all managed by the cloud providers. And there are definitely pros and cons in using serverless. You have to make sure that your application fits the model. And with serverless, you're running code only and not servers in code. So that's the benefit of the serverless model. Now let's really quick compare servers against containers and serverless. How many people are running? A lot of people are running containers right now. Anybody running, pure EC2 instances with a stack on them? Okay, a few, awesome. I'm sure it's sometimes painful for you guys. Servers, right? Traditional, whether on-prem, off-prem, VMs, physical. They're hard to maintain. They're hard to update. A lot of security. If you're really serious about security, you have to make sure that they're very compliant. Everything that you need to worry about with servers, right? So you have, provisioning the instances, and I'm talking about EC2s, but this goes for pretty much all the servers. Your scaling groups, your security, your VPCs, your network configuration, server updates, framework updates, maintaining the code, monitoring storage, monitoring time sync, and security scans. With an enterprise level companies, if you have a pretty robust security team, they always want to probe your servers. So that recently came around, on the Beachbody level that we need to probe all of the servers and make sure that they're secure. Containers, great technology. I got nothing against containers. They are fantastic. A step up, obviously, from servers. Run your code anywhere. A lot of tools and frameworks and orchestration stacks out there that handle containers. But you still have to worry about the image. You have to worry about dependencies, frameworks, container security. You have to worry about orchestration, and still with your network. Of course, maintain code level security. All that stays the same. Enter serverless. So with serverless, this is pretty much all you have to worry about. Maintaining code, maintaining your dependencies, and maintaining code level security. So everything else, as far as the networks and how they're run. Of course, you can run them within VPCs, outside of VPCs, and I'll explain that. But mostly, if you're running outside of a VPC, this is all you really need to worry about: maintaining your code, maintaining your dependencies, and maintaining the code level of security. All right. So what are compatible workloads? That's the fundamental important note that you have to take as far as when you want to choose a technology for your stack. RESTful APIs that do CRUD actions, they're perfect candidates for serverless. Usually, when you're updating something or creating it, it's pretty fast. It's not a data job that's long running. Your actions like registering a customer, logging in, retrieving content, modifying account preferences. Those are all pretty short transactions, and they work very well with Lambda. As it turns out, Openfit, that's the majority of our transactions. Our business model is actually fairly simple. We're going to definitely get more complicated, with our services and what we offer, but it's literally like Netflix. You go in there and you register a user. The user buys a subscription. You give them entitlement to the programs. They log in, they stream, they look at the programs. That's it. Short transactions. Now, let's define what short means. It's not like it has to be in milliseconds or a couple of seconds. Lambda has a 15-minute timeout, so you still can do a lot of work within that 15 minutes. If you have a data job that you need to run, at night, transfer some records over from a service to a service, why not use Lambda? It's pay per use, and you wouldn't have to have a server sitting there idle, taking up, costing money. So data job running, in a serverless, you save a lot of money just using a function versus having a server that you have to worry about. Concurrency, very important for when you want to scale, correct? That's basically the meat and potatoes of scaling. You should be able to handle lots of concurrent connections and requests at the same time. So Lambda is extremely good at handling that. And basically, there's a limit. There's a soft limit on Lambda in AWS, at least for 1,000 concurrent connections. But you can always increase that once your application reaches that level of traffic. With concurrency, the way it works is that a function at any time will go and grab, however many connections that it needs from that pool of 1,000, and then run it and then release it back to the pool. So Lambda, very good for that. We are running at around maybe 50 concurrent connections top right now. Of course, our parent company, Beachbody, is running at somewhere around 1,000 to 2,000, which is pretty high because they have 1.6 million users, but we'll get there one day. That was about control. Oh, another concept, memory and time balance. So Lambda functions are basically the cost is calculated based on the memory that you give it and the time of execution in increments of 100 milliseconds. So every 100 milliseconds, you're getting charged for more. Meaning, if you're at 50 milliseconds, you're getting charged for 100, you're 100, and 150 for 200, and so on. So you have to be, if your whole application is serverless, you have to be careful that you don't have transactions that are running too long, right? Again, if you have one execution that's running at night and doing a data job, perfect. But if all your transactions are taking 7 seconds or 10 seconds, then you would be having a problem anyways, because your site would be pretty slow. But you're also going to be incurring a lot of costs. So you have to be very careful with the memory and time balance. And I'll talk more about that later on. Security. So by no means am I a security expert. There's way smarter people that do that at our company. But what has happened, and with the Lambdas, you can run them, if you're familiar with this, you can run them within a VPC or outside of a VPC. So basically, we're running everything outside of VPCs, and everything is public facing. That doesn't mean that we're not secure, and I'll get into that. But that basically opens, that simplifies a lot. We don't have to worry about VPC configuration, NAT configurations, network settings. So when a developer, let's say, launches something into the wild, opens up a security group, we don't have to worry about that. So what the serverless model allows you to do is basically run outside of that. All of our APIs are secured in different ways, which are with Cognito authorizers. If people use Cognito, we log the user through the Cognito, and then all of our APIs basically have to be authorized from that point on. Obviously, API keys, and we use SSL. Lambda, because it's ephemeral, it makes it very hard for attackers to grab your process and do damage. They still can, but it's much easier to do it on a server, and especially servers being the number one security risks for the operating system on patch servers. Once the attackers get in there, then they can wreak havoc. With serverless, it's always patched by the cloud provider. Latest, all the dependencies, all the OSs, and what have you. So serverless makes it very hard for an attacker to do a lot of damage, and that's also very important when it comes out to timeouts. So you have to make sure that you use a good timeout model on your Lambdas, right? So if something, you want the timeout to be, let's say, 10 seconds or 5 seconds for something that takes a couple of seconds to execute. You don't want it to be a couple of minutes, because then it'll shut down, and it will be hard for somebody to get a hold of that process. I talked about our Cognito authorizer, and then of course other security concerns, OWASP top 10. Those always stay relevant. And also code level security. Sanitizing your inputs, validating your data. Those still remain the same. So you have to do that to be secure. The zero trust model, I talked about it. It's basically, if you're running out of VPC, even if you're within a VPC, you want your all of your services to be authorized when they're calling each other. So don't leave them open, even if you're behind a VPC. It's good practice to have them talk to each other and say, hey, are you authorized to call me? So when you go outside of a VPC with Lambda, that forces you into a zero trust model. So you have to make sure that everybody is getting authenticated against each other. Obviously, least privilege principle when it comes to roles. Beware of third-party packages when you include them in your functions. Those are another security risk, but much more manageable with serverless and then Lambda. And then, of course, protecting the user data at all levels with SSL and other security layers. So cost. Let's imagine you have an EC2 server or a container, and it's running and it's fielding, your requests, and sometimes, it'll go idle. It's not doing anything, and you're paying for that. You're paying for that resource. With Lambda, you're a pay per use. So and it's a very nominal fee. Sometimes I wonder why AWS doesn't hike up the price, but AWS, if you're here, don't listen to that. But it's very, very, very affordable. If your functions are, short and very optimized, it's a lot of cost savings. I really have not come to a model where, the amount of requests ran through an EC2, costs less than a Lambda. Of course, if you get to, millions of requests per hour, or where you have your EC2s, right, they're always getting traffic, so it makes sense to put them in EC2s. But then what happens at that instance? You gotta have to create more EC2s, so that you're not running at 90% CPU. So it manages to balance itself out when you're using Lambda. That's at least what we've found with our model and our transaction times. Be careful, there's a breaking point. You want to make sure, again, your transactions are not too long. Indirect costs of not running serverless, again, patching servers, security. You have to if you have thousands of servers, containers, you still have to have people manage those and make sure that they're patched up. So most likely you're gonna have to hire some people to take a look at that on a continuous basis. So cost. So we talked about this. This is my favorite slide over here. So we run, as I mentioned, about 65 million calls per month. Let's say, hypothetically, that we're giving 128 megabytes of memory per function, all of the functions. If that were the case, we'd be running at around 10 seconds per function. So it would take them 10,000 milliseconds to execute, and we would still pay pretty low for 65 million calls, $76. But if you double the memory, now you're paying $43 because your execution time is actually dropping to 3 seconds. So this is what I'm talking about, tuning your functions. You would think that, more memory, more costly, but actually, as it turns out, the execution time is the big cost factor. Once you get into the bigger memories, as you can see, it's like a negative exponential effect where, there's a point where the more memory you throw at it, it's not going to do any good. Lambda does provision CPU based on memory, so you are actually getting more CPU. I highly recommend if you are running heavy workloads in serverless, that you take advantage of. There are frameworks out there that actually can run your Lambda function against, and they'll tell you what is the optimal memory and time point. All right. So this is our serverless view in Datadog, and they actually this is my favorite view because I'm always in here. It's the serverless view. It used to be called Cloud Functions, but now serverless. And as you can see, you have everything from performance and all the way to cost metrics right there. We basically look at these functions. From a cost perspective, we'll look at these. We'll keep an eye on them and see if the memory is running hot or it's being underutilized. So we can always use this view and, of course, drill down to the function to optimize the function cost. And, of course, performance as well. Invocations, durations, if there's any errors. And we use this extensively. I'm really happy with the way that they're going with serverless. They seem to be the most forward-thinking, when it comes to serverless. I did one little story when this wasn't available, like about a year ago. I started building all of these metrics, through logs. So I was taking, milliseconds and memory and trying to come up with the same. And then one day I open up and it's right there, and I'm like, all that work that I did. But anyways, it's still great that they put it out, and they're gonna put out more. All right. Ever since we went serverless, our users very happy, right? So they're not waking up and getting all juiced up in the morning and then see a blank screen when it comes to their videos. They're much happier. So our users are crazy. They run these makeshift live workouts where they'll actually FaceTime each other, put the FaceTime, they'll point it to themselves, and everybody's like looking at each other, and they run this live kind of workout, of course, to motivate each other. And that's actually pretty good. I love that. We hear about those stories that when our platform is stable, they have a lot of fun doing those sort of stuff. And of course, with happy users, we have a better social media presence, and they're happier. They're actually, they create groups. They create workout groups, and they talk about the specific workouts. And I did this today. I did that today. It was fun. Yeah, did you have fun? How did you think the exercises were hard or easy? So they're very involved in that. So we're getting a lot of positive feedback on social media, and we're very happy about that. And of course, with increased happiness comes increased user retention. This is a very, very competitive field. There's hundreds of apps out there for fitness now, especially in the last 3-4 years. They've been popping left and right. So when your users are happy and they can tell other users about it, it's all about the experience that you're having doing that workout. And we're actually in the process of merging with another company. It's official now, so I can talk about it, where they run live workouts. It's a very interesting model where a coach sets up your exercise routine and then watches you, and then other users can watch you. There's sort of what the users are doing anyways, but now officially. If you want to take a run, a lot of people won't run or walk. And you could do it as a group. It's actually really cool because you can see your progress. You can see how much your pace, and the coach is telling you, hey, you pick up the pace, and so a lot of user happiness around that, and we're happy that we're helping create happy users. Higher reviews on the app stores, of course, and as I mentioned, word of mouth is very, very important. Because it's a very, very competitive field when it comes to fitness. All right, impact on business. Stakeholders are happy. Management is happy. They don't have to worry about constantly being down, not having trust in the technology, always having to worry about scaling and loading issues. Obviously, marketing a new program was always an issue for us. We would have to have capacity planning. We would have to, talk to different teams and make sure that, they're on deck and ready for incident response, because we knew that we were going to have issues. But we don't even talk to those teams anymore. It's been like year and some. We don't talk to them. We don't care what they do. They do their marketing. It hits our servers. We're good. As a collective. Our minds, the minds of QA, the minds of product people, even the minds of the graphic, the creative team, everybody's just happier with not having to deal with issues in production and scale issues. And of course, as I mentioned, cost savings, that's a definite big plus for us. Operations, that's my team. Exponentially more stable. We've had 0 incidences to date after launching on January 17th that had to do with our infrastructure. So we've DDoSed ourselves a couple of times. It was a lot of fun, seeing the graphs shoot up, and it was able to handle it. Lambda handled it, Dynamo handled it. So it was probably expensive, but we didn't have any outage due to our infrastructure. It's always been, we do use a lot of third-party systems, which we're simplifying now, Shopify, Recurly, and if it's been down, it's always been on them, or if AWS or any cloud provider goes down themselves, that we can't do anything about. But no incidences due to increased traffic. And we've had a couple of announcements and a couple of programs come out within the last few months, and we didn't see any problems. NOC and SRE, obviously very happy people. Security model has become a lot simpler. We don't have to worry about the servers. Just recently we had a big initiative for discovery of all the servers in the across Beachbody and Openfit, and believe me, there's a lot of servers there. And basically, I had to just go in and check off nope, because we don't have any servers. All those guys had to install roles in their accounts, give privilege to the probing servers that were looking for security holes, and it was just great to not have to worry about that. So simplification, but be careful. You still, doesn't mean that you don't have to worry about security. There's other stuff that you have to worry about. Ease of monitoring. Obviously, when you go all serverless, and you're on one technology, it's much easier. But even if you're just on a server or container model, you still have to monitor, the infrastructure when it comes to those servers and the code as well. But right now, all we really do is we monitor, just our code base. Of course, we monitor the lambdas and the latencies and everything, but it's become much easier to do that versus having to worry about servers themselves. Much better performance with continuous delivery. We have immutable artifacts that we ship around. When code gets merged, it gets built and it goes through the serverless framework and gets deployed everywhere. Again, it's simplified because of using serverless and not having to worry about provisioning servers. And if there's always something with server building, a package going wrong, or some security thing we need to configure when it comes to servers. So remember I told you that my nickname was Res 300? That was because I was waking up at 3 in the morning pretty much twice a week. Not anymore. No more 3 a.m. wake-up calls. I haven't had any, and let's not jinx it. I am happy to have given up on that nickname. It was kind of a badge of honor thing for a while, but it gets pretty old pretty quick, as some of the SRE people would know. So yeah, that's the story behind that. Monitoring. So we follow the 3 pillars of observability and keeping with the industry best standards and practices. Our logs are the most important metric that we have, or pillar that we have. We use structured logging, and we log the heck out of everything. With Lambda, obviously, because the function executes and it's done, you want to capture as much information as possible. So we rely heavily on logs. We do have X-ray on standby to do tracing as far as APM, but we really haven't had to turn it on. We've been able to debug everything when it comes to with logs. But in case we need to, we can always turn that on and get that information to Datadog and do that. And I know for a fact that they're working heavy on the next generation APM for cloud, for serverless. So I'm really excited about that. Metrics on everything, of course, those are default. They come in through CloudWatch, and we have alerts built on all of the metrics. Pretty much everything we can think of we have. And we have actually aggregation from different status pages, different RSS feeds, different endpoints for the different users. So when something goes wrong, I literally find out within seconds that a third-party system has gone down. We ping everything synthetics, so it's been really, really good. How am I on time? Because I have a 0 over here. Am I good? Sorry. Oh, okay, excellent. All right, I don't want to ramble on too much. So that's when it comes to monitoring. With Lambda, it is a challenge because it's ephemeral and it's short-lived to it's not your traditional server and having agents in there, but they're coming up with really cool stuff as far as APM and tracing. And happy to announce that our front end is also serverless-ish. So we were running Node. We're on React and Redux stack, and we were running Node in containers. So that was the only bits of containers and servers that was left. So we use, I don't know if anybody heard of Gatsby? Yeah. So it basically takes your React your application and it creates static files, flat files across. It's really cool. I'm not an expert at it. Don't ask me any questions about it. That's the front end team. But what happens is that now we don't need to run Node. We don't need to run Express. And we basically have put that in S3 and behind CloudFront. So what better way, right? 40 millisecond response time. Very fast, scalable. Talked about Node, JS, and then if we need to do any routing, any special routing, we can do it at the edge. We actually use Lambda at the edge extensively in our ecosystem to make sure that even our origins are not getting hit, as less as possible, so that we can be pretty fast and efficient. So so that's the front end, and I'm happy that with that little bit, it basically put us completely into 100% serverless mode. And thank you. And